So first of all, I want to introduce myself, Chad Elford. I'm a product manager responsible for the Webex calling migration strategy and working with hopefully the partner-led approach that you'll hear today. So what my role is to kind of get you an overview and then dig a little deeper into a program that we call the Certified Migration Provider Program. Ultimately, we've been singing this song for the last 3 years and aggressively talking about, I'll use the word migration at the beginning, but I really want to talk about it as a transformation, a transition, or more importantly, an upgrade to some degree, knowing full well that in parallel to that, we're also saying that we're honoring on premise and we're doubling down on hybrid. So I'll try and walk that fence without falling on it, but I want to make sure that we really do understand that my goal is to help our customers get to the end state that makes most sense for them. And now we're saying that it can be, we're seeing hybrid being a very, competitive possibility for us that differentiates us. So ultimately, we want to get to a WebEx calling experience or a hybrid experience that really is about simplicity, the connectivity and security. But we're really talking about maintaining the connections and delivering a higher level of collaboration and elevating the commodity of calling to something that delivers a bigger value. So again, I'll try and break this down simplistically into the three areas that I have focused on for the last 60 days that I've been with this charge of being what I call the migration DLT leader, which means any complaints or any development or anything that we have, we create a Jira ticket called a PF, a product feature or a portfolio feature, and that has to get above the line. The only way that I'm going to get above the line is with your support or with the fact that we're being transformational on some of the things we're doing. So we have three options that I'm responsible for, and I did a bunch of feedback, and I want to get your feedback from the room today. But the three options to support successful journey is number one, we got to do a better job with our APIs, making sure that there's a full set, that they're communicated properly, that they're fully validated and robust and scalable. But the goal here is to make sure that we extract, automate, and transform those sets so that they can deliver on the expectation of moving a customer from where they are, whether it's legacy or on-prem, to any of the final cloud destinations that we have, whether it's DI or multi-tenant. The other area that we've invested in briefly, and that we want to make sure that we kind of summarize and put a bow around, which is our WebEx migration tool. So I know Stephen has a very deep dive into those, but I'll just touch base with those. But those are simple and self-guided, and many of the people just aren't aware that we have them. So I just want to make sure I bring that up. And then the area of focus for this call, because your partner's in the room, is that I've been given the mandate to drive a partner migration services and certified migration providers awareness. So Kermie's in the room there, but we also have other certified migration providers that are really stepping up to make sure that they help us help you deliver on some of the gaps, and then obviously deliver on the efficiencies and optimizations that you need to be successful when margins are really tight. But again, my focus is the partner-led approach, and that's why it's in green, because I want to make sure that we put our arms around you and hear you, and then I can do a better job of elevating the requirements to get above the line so we can actually have a roadmap that is partner centric. We all know that there's a reality check though. So there is no easy button when it comes to any of these quote upgrades, transitions, or transformations or word migrations. We're not wanting at the bottom here. We talk about there is not a lift and shift approach here. I don't want to just take the existing configuration that's questionable and then shove it into a round peg into a square hole into WebEx calling and call it a migration. We want to really look at all of the processes, the massive amount of the data, really do some sanitization, right? And optimization. We really want to talk about the hesitancy, right? And the fear of having to redesign something without, and that's why the partner is so critical in this scenario, because the relationship that you have, the trust that you've can hopefully garner, and the support that we're going to give you will hopefully drive to a better end state and hopefully more migrations that are successful without that fear of change and giving them something to be excited about. My focus, so I sit just so you know where I fit in the organization. I report into Pi. I'm up to Ame on the WebEx calling product management side. And I work with Trevor and an extended number of team members like Stephen and others that are really driving around the support and documentation and guidance, right? The intelligence that leads to some of this. But I want to focus again on some of the recommendations and we can talk about those. So my focus has been on stepping back and realizing that we really need to do a better job taking a partner-centric approach. So we need to listen to you more. I need to make sure that any feature requirements or development effort, because we have limited resources, need to be designed to deliver scalability through you, not to go around you, but to work with you to deliver. And so one of those areas, and I'll show you some of the feedback we got, is to really close some of the APIs, the gaps that are there. Or I know there's many partners in the room that have your own processes, your own migration, your services and capabilities that you charge for, that you need our help. The other element is, instead of talking about replication, we want to talk about a redesign that improves the customer scenario in terms of their call flow, capabilities, optimization. And then we all know they want to reduce costs from licensing, but at the same time deliver more robustness. And then, the reality around hybrid configuration. And then the other area that I want to really spend a lot of time on is elevating you as a partner about what your migration services are, so we can talk to our customers collectively and to our sales team, so they present your offer instead of ours. And more importantly, that the third party certified migration providers that have been certified, you're aware of what they can do and how they can help you within your own service modeling and delivery. So that makes sense. I kind of want to jump into some of the capabilities here in terms of um, updates. So one thing we did do, and Trevor and team were part of this, we spent a lot of time recreating. Has anybody seen the Webex calling migration page, the new web migration page? This is Trevor's in the room, so he can back me up. This is not an easy thing to do within Cisco, is to create a new web page around this. But we did take a whole new approach to try and simplify the messaging and to map some of our tools and capabilities into the process of steps that we recommend. Now, these are not set in stone, but this is a great way for us to kind of highlight how the journey should go and where our tools and documentation fit. So again, the team spent honestly 6 months working through this. We delivered this in the December timeframe, and we've been tracking this. And the reality is, we aren't going to change the world with a new documentation set, but you can see here our migration tools, our certification migration partners are actually laid out very simply, and all our video resources are in one spot. So again, the goal here is not to really do anything other than simplify the communication to you of what's available. So that was one of my first tasks. So again, this is not going to change your world, but it does give you a model or a mapping of prepare, plan, design, implement, and optimize. And it breaks that down into what are the different steps that we have gone through, whether it's through our own resources or whether it's learning from best practices. But again, this is just a model. Again, the other thing that was done is we have this amazing transitional unified CM to WebEx calling deployment guide. This again was a huge effort, right? Delivered in December. But again, documentation doesn't change the world at the end of the day. If nobody reads it, you're not going to gain any value it. So again, what I wanted to try and walk through here is we can build all this, but if we're not talking with you and talking through you and aligned with you, then it goes nowhere. So we have this new migration page, we have a help center page, and we have a transition page with the deployment guide that are all available. And so what we wanted to talk about is, getting feedback from you. So I have had an opportunity to talk to most partners, and if I haven't gotten to you yet, please forgive me, because you're on the path, and because you're there today, I want to make sure I throw it out with you. We are doing something called the Partner Pulse, and the Migration Initiative is really a reality check of how do we recenter ourselves to a partner-centric approach? How do I make sure as a product manager that I'm not just aligning to the loudest customer or the loudest partner, but really looking at the current migration tools and not building them in an island, but making sure the partners are going to use them. So anything we do from this moment on is based on limited resources and funding. And so I'm only going to do stuff where I know that it's going to be leveraged and drive scalability. So part of the proposal was to create a migration advisory committee. And if you are interested, please talk to Trevor afterwards. And at the end of the day, we want to understand where your gaps are, where your needs are, and where we can do a better job helping. And in doing that, I want to elevate partner success stories. So one way to drive trust is to make sure that we elevate jointly the success stories around those that have migrated. So there's a level of trust and a level of confidence in whether it's vertical specific, but we don't do a very good job of putting your logo with our logo and the customer logo together and identifying, we know that we've sold them something. We know that you are working with them or we're working with them, but we never take the time to actually elevate that to a success story. So that's one of the areas that I want to talk to you about is, elevating you as a partner. What have you done, and then what have we achieved together, right? Or what have you achieved to deliver a better experience in the WebEx calling environment? And then more importantly, as a product manager that has to prioritize things, I want to identify the product tools and solutions gaps and recalibrate some of the roadmap items so that we're delivering professional services capabilities or elements that help you with your professional services, and then delivering the roadmap together and that you have visibility to that, and then defining some key metrics so that we can defend, the investment that we're making here. So at the end of the day, we could spend 6 months doing a new web page that nobody looks at, or we can actually work on APIs that you're actually going to leverage within your own processes or within your own scripting or capabilities to deliver your own successful services. But the whole point here is also to elevate our third parties that have done a huge amount of investment, taking those APIs, delivering a more graphical user interface and experience to their solutions, whether it's Kermi with their acquisition of Yarn Lab, or whether it's Tukey, or whether it's Acadian that I'll talk about, or others like New Wave. But again, those people and organizations have spent many, many hours understanding, and then thousands and thousands of successful migrations that you can take advantage of. So that's the plan here. Now, in those interviews, I delivered. There's 25 resellers that I interviewed, and I apologize if I didn't get to all of you. But the key outcome here that I got was there's a lot of complexity, there's a lot of resistance, and there's really no urgency. We're forcing people somewhere where they don't see if they have working dial tone and nothing's broken. Why are we forcing them other than a financial situation? So the key outcome here, and please, I'll stop for a second and just make sure you have a chance to give me your feedback. But the partners that on this list right here, including one of our largest customers, Apple, said that the tooling is not the issue, right? It's the fact that we could create the best tool, but at the end of the day, we want to make sure that there are a clear understanding of the journey, and that the APIs are actually more critical to the success, and that there's fear and lack of certainty around what we're doing with hybrid. And then there is some of this conversation led to this introduction of an AI migration assistant that I'll walk through. So again, I know I'm jumping through this quickly, but I really want to tell you that when I've got this partner pulse feedback is, we need to include the new devices, engage with partners. We need to extend bulk provisioning, introduce hunt groups. Those are all things that relate to a product requirement that I need to defend. And the only way I get above the line is if I can put as many partners on that list as possible, so that I can say, we got to do this versus the 7,000 other things that other product managers are asking for. So there is investment in this area, but again, it needs to be targeted to partner-centric improvements that are going to move the needle. So those are my promise to you as part of this. I'll call it migration council or committee. At the end of the day, I need better voices to be able to defend when I'm sitting in that prioritization meeting. So the key of today was just to make sure that you're aware of, what do we have today? We do have discovery and analysis capability and some tools. We have third parties that are unbelievable in terms of what they can do for you. We do have the ability to help introduce you to whether it's our own team or the third parties, and then do a better job of defining what our APIs can and cannot do. But we also have the ability to be able to define, success journeys. So whether it's Steven or Trevor or an extended team behind them like Johannes, at the end of the day, they've broken this down into 5 steps that, the discovery step, the modernization, walking through those, and we can do a better job of getting that information out to you. So if you're not aware, how many of you have used any of the WebEx control migration tools? Now, again, I'm not going to overpromise, but they were built for a specific purpose, individually in silos, as a standalone offer to solve a problem, right? And that problem is, captured under the migration tools. If you go to WebEx Control Hub under Updates and Migration, we have the migration insights there. We have the ability to migrate features. We have the ability to, deliver some value here. So these are the ones that are recommended and used the most, and I'm tracking these and then want to get feedback. But at the end of the day, I'm going to be very honest, right? They're very basic. Can I get some feedback from you guys? They do simple configurations only. They're standalone. There's not any integration. There's no user interface. Most of it is just an extraction into an Excel file, and then you have to, manipulate that. And there has to be a level of competence for you to understand what you're doing. But I love feedback from you guys. Stephen has a whole session where you're going to go dig deeper. But please, I'll give you my details, and I want you to follow up with me if you're not comfortable sharing right now. But I've gotten some very negative feedback and some very common feedback saying it's great, but it doesn't make any sense. I can't discover it. I don't know how to use it. The documentation sucks. Like, any other feedback that you guys have? The the tools themselves have to be robust enough to handle that number, and then you have to have an actual feedback loop. So I've had one partner say, we used the tool, we waited 3 hours, nothing was happening, and then I had to shut it down. It was a waste of my time. Right? There was no indication of that it was doing anything. Right now, there is no committed view to improve any of our own tools without the support of the partner. Again, I'm not going to defend anything other than we do have tools. They are basic, they're simple, they're standalone, they're task-based, they're manual. We don't, we have to do a better job, like I said, providing videos and clarification so we don't overpromise what these tools can and cannot do. But there's a level of capability within the partner and understanding that needs to be in place to even to look at that spreadsheet and know what the hell it is, right? And that's part of our problem. And so what I've suggested, and again, this is not going to be elevated. We call it a PF, so a portfolio feature. I have a number associated with it, but I'm going to ask you just for your basic feedback. You won't know everything about this, but the intent here is, in this world of agentic AI, we actually can pull and suck in information from all of the available resources and knowledge sets and present back to you as an admin some suggestions. So as an example, we have a proof of concept right now. It's not in beta yet or anything, but we have a migration AI assistant where you can use prompt-based guidelines, and then it will walk you through the steps and make suggestions of, okay, if you want to do that, please use this tool. It will suck in the configuration, whether it's the BAT file or whether it's UCC or CCUC, Cloud Connect UC enabled. It will bring that in configuration, then make you suggestions. It will then allow you to ask questions. So is this something that you guys are looking at or that you'd be interested versus going through all the documentation? This would be able to present you a contextual support and guidance directly into Control Hub. Is that something that you think is valuable versus creating a new tool, or is this a waste of time because you're not going to look at it anyways? We will be looking at, inviting feedback on something that I can actually show you in a month or two. But the whole point here is you go to Control Hub, you start the AI wizard. The first thing it asks you is, would you like me to extract or you want to upload the file? So wherever you get that information, you can do that. We want to create and generate a migration plan. What that would do is lay out a proposal to you saying, these are the areas you should be concerned about. These are the issues we see. And then it will present a very basic call flow where you can, leverage that. Now, again, this is not to replace some of our third parties that do a better job, but the whole intent here is this is AI. So we should be able to work with our third parties and with you as a partner to be able to take learnings and make sure that the prompts and everything are learning over the period of time. So it's within the model, it should get better over time. But again, the whole point here is prompt-based responses, guidance, and so it extracts. You could ask it, how should I approach this, right, with this problem, and it will come up with a suggestion. Now, the whole point of the AI is that response going to be valuable? Is it contextual? Is it accurate, right? So those are the areas that we got to work on. But that I'm excited about, starting the conversation with you. Instead of building a new tool, let's take all the tools and all the information available and try and present to you something that is useful, right? And contextual. It's based on what you've just loaded into the Control Hub. This is what we recommend. And then it's based on your feedback as you walk through it. And again, the whole point here is, like I said, it gives you a guide, an HTML guide that gives you links to everything. It gives you a specific migration plan with a count of, an overview so that you can actually walk through that with the customer. And then it gives you a call flow visualization that allows you to look at it and then make decisions on, like you said, routing and hunt groups and those type of things. So this is the starting point of my effort to, instead of solving a standalone, non-integrated approach, saying, okay, we've got amazing information from third parties. We've got amazing information from partners. We have our own learnings that should be in the brain, and the brain should yield a better result. Now, again, I'm not saying it's going to replace an intelligent individual on the other side, but it would help with the skill set issues that we have or the brain drain where people just don't know about the UCM. So this will take some historical information saying, based on this, here's a recommendation based on the following, this vertical, and retail does it this way. Is that what you're hoping to accomplish? I have to tell you, as a product manager, being lost in a CSV is a waste of time because it didn't provide a recommendation. I have no idea what to do next. And at least this will help. I'm calling in an assistant and a wizard because most of the information is available. We just need to present it in a way that's actionable, right? Or make recommendations. So I love your feedback. Just know that this is where I'm going to spend more of my time than building a standalone simple tool that doesn't scale. Right.
Excellent. Thanks, Jeff.
So again, I have a demo that I can share with you. Please talk to Trevor afterwards. Make sure you sign up and I can follow up with you because I do want all partners to give me feedback so that whatever we create, as you know, a model is only good as the information that we put into it. But then the feedback is also very important because I need to say, who's using this, right? I can't spend this much effort as time to build something if it's not going to get used. So we do have a working DAO, but I want to make sure you understand that I have to go to what's called DOR and get our engineering team at above the line. So that will happen in April, by the end of April, which means in May is when we can start engaging with you. But I can't even get to that without saying that the following partners are excited about this, right? Because the problem that I have with all the other things we've done is we built it and it's not being used. So if I can prove that those are enough interests to then make sure that we're co-developing this or going through the cycles where alpha and beta, and then GA is something that we kind of want to talk about in the October timeframe so that we can stand on stage and everybody's super excited because we'd love to make those announcements. But what I want to do at the end of the day is make sure you're using something that adds value, right? Again, the action points for me is we need to just get started, right? And I need to make sure that you're looking at both the WebEx and the third-party tools. Where can they help? What can we do? At the end of the day, making sure we're designing with an end state and that we're not talking about a lift and shift or, recreating. And I need to figure out ways to help you. So part of the evolution of this AI migration assistant is to make recommendations. So you should be able to say, I have the following situation. Here's the file of their current. What do you recommend of an end state? And that end state might mean that you're in a hybrid situation. So keep these devices on-prem, put these users and services in the cloud. And this is the licensing structure. And by the way, it looks at your licensing and will be able to say, this will work within your current financial framework that you already have, right? So that is I know that I be delusional that that's going to solve all world hunger, but that's a starting point that isn't there today, right? Because maybe you can give me feedback, but you don't always have access to someone where you could bounce those ideas off, right? But if the AI assistant can at least help you start the dialogue and then give you something to go to your sales rep or to your partner, like success manager, and say, I'm considering this. Who do I need to talk to? At least there's some insights there that will assist you. So again, my goal is to make sure I hear you. There's a partner-centric approach is what I'm committed to. Just so you know, I spent, 7 years working for a partner before I joined 3.5 years ago at Cisco. And I think we have to do a better job making sure we bring to bear, how do we do this together instead of, replacing your capabilities with ours or, fighting with the customer about who's best to do it. You are the partner. You have the relationship, so we want to give you the tools and capabilities to be able to support, our joint goal. I want to be able to drive that awareness of, what you can do as a partner. So that's what I mean by elevating you as a success story. There's nothing better to walk into a customer. We've done, 5 migrations with very similar customers in your vertical, and this is the outcome, and Cisco has endorsed it, right? At the end of the day. Again, I would like to introduce this AI migration assistant, right? But again, I need to make sure I get the support from the admins and the partners that they're going to actually leverage it. And then at the end of the day, I want to execute this concept of a partner pulse, which means we're connected to you. We have regular cadence, like you said, whether that's a committee or a council. At the end of the day, a migration advisory council means you're MAD, M-A-D. So if you want to be MAD with me, I'm happy to have you part of my conversations on a regular basis. Because that would mean you're a member of that advisory council.